Hey, good morning. Today is another one of our first fives. Today we're looking at text from 1 Samuel chapter 1. It's a story really about heartbreak of a woman who wishes to have a kid. It's a story about how we sometimes see someone and we think something only to find out it's not really true. And it's a story about how sometimes God works things out in ways we never really expected. And so we'll kind of look at this story. Here's what we find. Beginning with verse 3. Year after year, this man went up from the town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife, Peninnah, and all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her. And the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her, till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow, saying, O Lord Almighty, if you'll only look upon your servant's misery, and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son. And I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk, and said to her, How long will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. She said, May your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. And going on, it says, she became pregnant, and she had a son, and she named him Samuel. And I'm jumping ahead to the end of the chapter, beginning verse 24. After he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. When they had slaughtered the bull, they brought the boy to Eli, and she said to him, As surely as you live, my lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you, praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there. I don't know about you, but this story is crazy, right? There's a couple wives, a husband who loves one more than the other, so he takes care of her a little better. It's a weird story. Hannah's not really sure what to do with part of it. She wants this baby. The priest sees her and thinks she's drunk, but she's really just struggling and she's in anguish. And the priest says, Well, I hope God gives you what you pray for. And he does. And then she does something that's crazy to us. She has this baby and she gives him really to the church to raise him. It's a crazy idea. I know you and I probably wouldn't do that, but here's the thing for us. I can't help but think about what I've done with my own kids. I've prayed this prayer since they were young, like, God, they're yours, not mine. And if you and I are going to pray these kinds of things, do we mean it? God, this is your kid. I want you to help raise them. I want them to be yours. But how often do we pull back and kind of grab our own kids and want to just control them? And that really, in the day, isn't love. But don't I believe at one level that God really does love my kids more than I ever could? Which I know is hard to fathom in so many ways, because I would do anything for my kids. But what we find throughout the scriptures is that God loves them more than I can. And so this story, I think there's a couple things for us to take away. One, will we trust our kids and our future to God? That's a big ask, but I do believe we're called to do it. And the second thing is, I can't help but think of Eli. He sees this woman who's actually in prayer, and he's a little judgmental toward her, or he's a lot judgmental towards her. He's like, stop being drunk. And so I think the reminder to us is, why don't we try to put ourselves in someone else's shoes before we make assumptions about what they are or aren't doing, about who they are and who they aren't. And here's what I believe. I believe God still wants to answer our prayers. I believe God still wants us to be dedicated to him, and he still wants to use us to further his work in the world. So maybe what we'll find is, we are a little less judgmental, if we are a little more trusting of God, it'll open doors forward, and we'll trust our future and our kids and our lives to Him. We'll see Him use them in ways that we never thought possible. We'll catch you next time for another First Five.